What's happening, rock and rollers? You got Steve Brown from Trixter, Always Jovi, sometimes Def Leppard. Man, I play in a lot of bands. I could be in danger at any minute, too. You never know. But I am hanging with my friends, the Hooligans, on Hooligan Nation. And this is a KISS-Centric Podcast. And we want you! How?
This week on Hooligan Nation, musician, songwriter, producer, entrepreneur. Most importantly, he's a survivor, master of reinvention, a good human being, and an even better interview. If you turned on MTV in the early 90s, you saw this band front and center. So you should be asking yourself, who the hell is this guy talking about? Well, you're going to have to hang with the Hooligans to find out, because you got
nothing
to lose.
You wanted the best. Well, they retired. So you got two dudes in a garage.
Talking KISS.
Welcome to the Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric Podcast, the podcast where the riffs are loud, but our opinions are louder. I'm Anthony.
I'm Rocco.
And I'm Black Diamond Dave.
Yes, folks, Anthony is here with Ren and Stimpy. What's up, hooligans, and welcome to episode 75 of the Hooligan Nation. This week, we bring in a true entertainer and native Jersey boy. We talk Ace Frehley, KISS, Van Halen, Trixter, and most importantly, survival in the music business. But before that, we have news, music we're listening to, and of course, our weekly poll. But first, last episode recap, episode number 74. Creatures of the Night versus the Mighty Love Gun in another round of the Hooligan Nation album deathmatch. Ren, Stimpy, do either one of you have anything you'd like to add?
Victor was robbed.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I'm taking Creatures over Love Gun, but I love Love Gun too, but I'm taking Creatures.
I was really blown away by the comments. A lot of people said Love Gun, Creatures wasn't all that special. And honestly, I'm blown away by that.
Yeah, I was a little blown away. And that was going to be my argument if neither one of you brought that up, was the masses think something different about Creatures of the Night than I think the four of us do.
Right.
Look, I'm not willing to go as far off the deep end as Victor. I do not think it's the greatest KISS album.
No.
But what I do think is it was a change in musical direction that really worked well.
Creatures of the Night, I think I'm really fond of that album because it was like more heavy, and it's kind of what I was going for at that point in my life. But I love Love Gun and Destroyer and all that stuff. But again, the Creatures is probably, I think when we did the poll, when we did the list, Dynasty was my number one, Creatures was my number two.
News. Anybody got news?
Yeah, I got a couple things.
All right, well, break it down to one.
Okay.
Pick your best shot.
All right. This is about Megadeth on Loudwire. Released on the 27th. Article by Lauren Schaefer. Every tour date that has been announced so far has been separated by Latin American dates, European dates, North American dates. Interview with Dave Mustaine. There was a quote: "We easily are talking about touring for another 3 to 5 years." I thought that was interesting.
3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Dave Mustaine is not an idiot.
That's the KISS way.
Yeah, you announce your farewell tour, and then who is it? I think the Eagles. The Eagles are still on a farewell tour. There's like 5 or 6 bands that have been on a farewell tour for like 5 or 10 years. And you know what? This is no knock on Dave at all. If they keep coming out,
right,
he ain't going anywhere. It's when they stop coming out, that's when it's time to go away.
Right.
I don't understand. I mean, I heard a story. I think it was Deep Purple. Deep Purple, like 7 or 8 years ago, a band, by the way. We should get a little credit because we usually don't bring Deep Purple up on this podcast. But I think it was 7 or 8 years ago. It might have been a little more. They announced their farewell tour, and they told certain people on their farewell tour, "Oh no, no, we're not going anywhere. We're just trying to drum up business." And this is a story that has been out. It doesn't matter. People still run out and go, "Oh my God, they're going away. I got to get tickets and I got to pay 3 times the price." And, I can't knock them for it. But these bands aren't going to stop doing that until it no longer works.
FOMO is a very real business strategy nowadays. Fear of missing out.
Yeah.
That's what these bands are using. Definitely.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
And they're going to continue to use it until it no longer works.
Definitely.
And I don't know if that's anytime soon, by the way.
No, because you're always going to be worried you're going to miss out on a legendary band's last show.
Dave, you got anything?
No. You took us there. It's great.
That's good. Okay. I do have something. Frankenstein is at it again. Anybody see Frankenstein's new creation?
I thought I seen
I have not.
Clip. I don't remember what it was. I think I seen something on YouTube, right?
Frankenstein did a remix, remash, whatever you want to call it, of one of my favorite songs. And that never officially has been released. The song "It's My Life." As many of you may know, the song was written by Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. KISS recorded it as a demo, but it ended up on the 1984 Wendy O. Williams album, WOW, which was produced by Gene Simmons and is considered very much an unofficial KISS album.
In the box set, right?
It is in the box set. The song,
really cool video.
That's why I know it. Yeah,
I love the video.
Well, Frankenstein mashed the demo up with Wendy O. Williams' version and made it a duet between Wendy O. and Gene.
Ooh.
The drums on the track are Creatures of the Night drums, and the song is a great song no matter who records it.
Definitely.
But this version is probably the most dynamic version I've heard, and I think it would have been a hit.
I like
it. Would have put it out in, 82, 83, 84 as a duet. I mean, like we've said this before, this guy is an evil
scientist,
master.
He's the
scientist.
I love Frankenstein.
Everything. This may be, for me, the best work he's done. I was blown away by it, and he's
always
done
liked
it.
That song.
He's done it before.
It's so good.
One of the songs from
my all-time favorite songs.
One of the songs from The Elder, he made it a duet with, I think, with Gene and Doro Persh from Warlock, and it's really good. I can't remember the song. Maybe it was not. No, it was. Was the song Legends? It was.
I'm not sure.
I can't remember. Hooligans fire me.
His "Come On and Love Me" though is the bomb. You have to give him credit.
I haven't heard.
Dude, when they're doing the chorus and they're doing the "Come On and Love Me," the part he has this part where he put the Paul vocal in, and it's "Come on, come." Dude, it's so good. You have to check it out if you have. Dude, he added parts of the song that I think are incredible. I sing them in my head now.
I would love to have that guy in the podcast, but
his brain would be so interesting to pick.
But then that's the problem. If we got him on the podcast, it would be like, "Can you do this to this? Can you fix this?"
Don't come here,
I'm
Frank.
sure he gets that. I'm definitely
Can you
sure
take the entire Unmasked album and make it a hard rock album? Can you just finish that up and fix that for me? Get it to me by the end of this week. Thanks.
Can you fix "Hotter Than Hell," please?
Yeah. I mean, it's been said to him actually before on another podcast. Can you fix the muddiness of "Hotter Than Hell"?
Good luck.
Yeah. One last thing. Our next Hooligan Nation giveaway starts on February 1st and will run through February 28th. The item is an autographed poster from KISS Cruise Landlocked in Vegas. The item is autographed by Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Eric Singer, and Tommy Thayer. I will put a picture of the item up somewhere here. If you want to be entered into this giveaway, you have to go to hooligannation.com, which should be right down there. And good luck to everyone who enters. Music we are listening to. What you got?
I have one of my favorite all-time vocalists that I've been listening to pretty much everything he's ever done and trying to mess with. Chris
Barry
Cornell.
Manilow?
No, Chris Cornell.
Okay.
I was going for Barry Manilow.
I've been listening to the album Euphoria Morning. Can't Change Me, Flutter Girl, Mission. It's got a lot of trippy songs on it, but vocally it's masterful. He goes all over the place, and like I said, it's kind of a folky type of rock album. It's definitely big difference from Audio Slave and Soundgarden. But like I said, I admire the way he sings so much, and I try to mimic a lot of the stuff that he does.
Black Diamond Dave?
I have been on a blues kick this week,
Ooh.
but more of like a contemporary blues kick.
Blues Clues?
Blues Clues. So 1977's George Thorogood and the Destroyers Moving On Over has been heavily in my playlist.
Ooh, okay.
I'm a big George fan, but also 84's Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Troubles Couldn't Stand the Weather.
Oh my God. I do love me some Stevie Ray.
Stevie Ray's awesome, dude.
Dude, one of the best guitar players to ever live, man.
Family Style, I think I had.
Yeah, dude. Everything Stevie is good.
Yeah.
That's okay. Next week I'll break out my new Guitar Hero. I'm not ready to give you all that yet.
Nice though. I like that though. I think the album I had of his was Family Style. It had like some hits and stuff on it that was really
my
good.
next bluegrass Guitar Hero next week. Anthony's not going to be into, but he's good, man.
Yeah, no.
Bluegrass is some challenging shit, man.
I like my grass green personally. If it's not green, it should be brown. I don't want no bluegrass.
Dude, I can't play my guitar like that.
Those flat pickers, brother, those guys blow my mind.
Amazing.
If you're a guitar player, absolutely.
The music I'm listening to, this should come as a big shock, but the new Megadeth album has been released, and I'm an addict. Yes, I am.
Do you like the new
I knew you were.
Ride the Lightning?
Somebody was going to ask
I was
going
to ask you. Yeah, I want to check it out myself,
I was waiting for you to bring it up.
I saw it on the album. I skipped everything to go to it. I have to admit, I hated it the first time.
Yeah, not for me.
I'm on like my third or fourth time, and it's very much growing on me. Once you get Hetfield's voice out of your head, and you replace it with Mustaine's voice, it is not bad at all. I still prefer the Metallica one, but it's growing on me more and more, and even more is I have yet to hit the skip button. And I'm like 4 times through the album, and I've yet to hit the skip button once. I'm not in love with all the songs, but it seems to me like the older Dave gets, the more that Dave's not worried about being the hardest, the fastest.
Right.
He's just making music, and I'm going to really go out on a limb and say what every artist says about every newest album. It might be his best work yet. It might be.
Bold.
Yeah, that is pretty bold, even for me. But every artist says it, and I might believe it this time. It's really, really good. It is not like crank it up, speed metal Megadeth throughout. It's a very well-rounded album that has different turns and hills and valleys, and I'm guessing that there's going to be some Megadeth fans that are not going to like it because of that. But for me, I like it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's a good album. I've liked what I've heard.
Oh, you know what time it is?
It's poll time!
Wow. And you know what that means, right? It is poll time. Our weekly polls can be found on our community tab and on our Facebook group. This week's poll question is regarding the recent comments by the illustrious Gene Simmons that Peter Criss did not have anything to do with writing the song Beth. As a fan, do you care? The choices were I care if Peter didn't write the song. I do not care if Peter didn't write the song. It doesn't matter, but the truth should come out. And some guy had to write in unnecessary for Gene to make the comment. So, Father Rocco, thank you. What say you?
Unnecessary for Gene to make the comment.
Well, we now know which guy
Who wrote it.
Black Diamond Dave.
I don't care.
That's not an option, but
It is today. I don't care who wrote the song.
I
You
do
got what
not
I meant.
care if Peter didn't write the song. Okay, we'll put you in the I do not care if Peter didn't write the song category. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, that's words are hard. I'm from the South.
Okay. All right. Cue the Southern jokes.
If I don't get a banjo solo, forget you guys.
There you go.
Father Rocco, what do you think the
Yes.
hooligan said?
I think that the hooligans are going to say their first feeling is going to be that it's Peter's song. So I'm going to say they don't care. I don't care if a monkey had cymbals going like this and that's the person that wrote the song. I don't think they'd care.
Okay. Black Diamond Dave.
Agreed. If a monkey with the symbol and it was good and I like it, dude, good enough for me.
I gotta add a write-in section, I guess, because I don't have anything on this poll about monkeys.
That's what we
I
are.
care.
Trained.
I care if Peter didn't write the song. Got exactly 0%.
You say smart hooligans.
Right on.
Unnecessary for Gene to make the comment. Got 24%. It doesn't matter, but the truth should come out. Got 30%. And I do not care if Peter didn't write the song. Got 45%. So I would like to tell all the hooligans out there that should be viewing this on this Friday, and I have no idea what the date is, January 30th, that we have a poll up right now. And as of right now is the first poll that only has votes for one option. It is 100% poll as of right now, and we've never had that before. So if you're a hooligan, even if you're not a hooligan, you might want to go to our community tab or our Facebook group and vote, just in case you don't agree with the masses that have the option at 100%. Thank you to all the hooligans that voted. A new poll, as I said, is up right now. So please, please, please go vote. It is both your right and your responsibility. Battleborn is a collaborative effort among like-minded individuals and organizations intent on repairing and restoring people who have served our country. We do this by delivering a unique level of support and guidance to those servicemen and women who have emotional and psychological wounds. We provide support directly and indirectly in collaboration with others in our community who value those who have served this nation and its communities. For more information, go to wearebattleborn.com. Today's guest is Steve Brown, musician, producer, songwriter, and one of the most respected multi-instrumentalists in rock. Best known as the guitarist and co-founder of Trixter, and for his work with Always Jovi. Steve has built a career that spans decades of recording, touring, and producing. Beyond the stage, he's become a trusted creative partner in the studio, most recently co-producing and co-writing Ace Frehley's latest album, where he also contributed backing vocals, played guitar, bass, and drums. From classic rock roots to modern production, Steve Brown's fingerprints are all over the music. And today, we're excited to talk about the stories, the craft, and the journey behind it all. Let's all welcome Steve Brown. Steve, thank you for dropping by and hanging with the hooligans.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. I love being with my KISS family and Jersey guys as well. So thanks for having me, and let's have some fun, everybody. Okay.
Let's
All
do it.
right. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and where your journey into music began?
I am, like you said, Steve Brown. And one correction, I didn't play any drums on the Ace record on 10,000 volts.
You didn't?
No, I didn't play drums. I programmed some stuff, but no,
Damn it.
that was Joe.
Wikipedia screwed me again.
Yeah, it's all right. It does that. Anton Fig, Joey Casada, and Matt Starr did all the drums on 10,000 volts. But I'll take it because, like I tell people, as a producer and stuff like that, I can't really play drums good, but I can sure program drums like a mother. So
Wikipedia's got you as doing overdubs on the drums.
I mean, percussion. I did, tambourine and shaker. Here's the egg shaker that we used a couple times on the record. But yeah, I'm Steve Brown, guitar player, producer, singer, songwriter, rock and roller, super rock fan, and I think a pretty good dancer, a snazzy dresser, and I smell like cinnamon and elderberry most of the time. I make my own cologne. And right now I'm producing Lorraine Lewis Femme Fatale, her latest record for Cleopatra Records, and working on a bunch of different things. New Trixter record, very, very slowly. I'm in my studio here in lovely Ringwood, New Jersey, 6160 Mojo Vegas, the world famous studio that I built 30 plus years ago. And knock on Formica, it's still standing. But so my journey into rock and roll started in 1978, and it was two bands, and I'm sure you could guess who they are. It was KISS and Van Halen, and it was two guitar players that changed my life forever, Mr. Paul Daniel Ace Frehley and Edward Van Halen. And the first KISS record I ever got was Rock and Roll Over. And listening to it for the first time, I've told this story, and it's the God's honest truth. When I listened to that record and heard I Want You for the first time, when it kicked in, when the band kicked in, I Want You, it was like a KISS concert in my brain. And I was 8 years old at the time, and I hadn't seen what KISS really was. I only had that album cover, the Rock and Roll Over album cover. So I didn't know, but it was the music gave me that feeling. And then I listened to the rest of the record and I was immediately hooked. And about 2 months after that, I begged my mother to take me for guitar lessons. We went down to the local music store and I signed up for guitar lessons. And then probably, I'm going to say 6 months after that, my friend Tommy Walsh, who lived up the street in Paramus, New Jersey, came walking down the street. I believe it was the summer of 78 with this 8-track tape. And he goes, Steve, I hear you like KISS. You got to hear this new band that Gene Simmons discovered. They're called Van Halen. And he gave me this 8-track tape. And I remember going home and putting it in my brother's 8-track tape player and hearing, the beginning of Running with the Devil, and then Eruption came on. And it was one of those life-changing moments, hearing that sound of the guitar and hearing, and especially when Ed got to the end where he's doing the tapping, like I didn't know if that was like some crazy keyboard, if it was a violin. It sounded like spaceship music to me. And it was the coolest thing in the world. And again, it was one of the most powerful moments of my life that solidified me being, since 1978, a rock and roller. I've said numerous times, I've sold my soul to rock, I sold my soul to rock and roll, and I'm still rock and rolling, party all night, every day, and still running with the devil for, close to 50 years later. And
wow, well said.
Just incredible stuff. And, again, man, I don't know how old you guys are. I think you're around my age. I'm 55 going on 56, but
55.
Growing up in those times, it was magic. The 70s and the 80s for us music fans, it was the greatest as far as I'm concerned. Of course, the early 90s for me was definitely the greatest musical period ever because of the success I had with Trixter. But as a kid growing up, pre-MTV, pre-cable TV, no computers, and where albums and 8-track tapes and even cassettes were your life. and the magazines, Rock Scene magazine, Circus magazine, Hit Parader.
Yeah.
They were our like our rock and roll high school or rock and roll middle school. That's where you learned about everything about every band. And it was just the best of times.
It's funny you bring that up because that's something that this generation doesn't have. Nothing is by appointment. You don't have appointment television. I can remember every Friday getting out of school and where we went to grade school and middle school, right across the street was this little market. Would you call it cafe?
Carmen's. Yeah.
Carmen's Luncheonette. Shout out to Carmen's Luncheonette. For penny candy.
Yeah.
There's something that nobody hears today. Penny candy. And this week or this month's version of Hit Parader, Circus. And when I would go there, what I bought would be based on, is KISS on the cover? If KISS was on the cover, I was going to spend my money on it. If KISS wasn't on the cover, I would wait till the next one came out. Nobody does that anymore. Everything is now spoon-fed to you, and nobody goes searching for anything anymore. So I find that interesting, especially when, down here, he's the young one. He's 32?
32.
He's 32. So I'm 51. He's 50. Well, he's 55.
55.
So we get a little, it's not that much different of a perspective from him, but
Dave's an old soul. He can hang with us. Trust me.
Right.
Good, man. Hey, you know what? You got great taste in music. So that counts for something.
Yeah.
Start.
But yeah, I remember that I used to go next to where I took guitar lessons in Maywood, New Jersey. It was a place called Musically Yours. Right next door to it was Coronet Variety Store. And that was the magazine mecca of like Bergen County. And it was, man, every time after my guitar lesson, it was mandatory. Mom, we got to go in and see what magazines are there. And it would be, I'd be getting the 16 magazine, Circus, and back then, man, back 78, 79, even 1980, there was a good chance pretty much every month and every week there was a new magazine that had KISS on the cover, or at least KISS and Van Halen.
I bought my fair share of 16 magazine, but only when Tiffany or Samantha Fox was on the cover.
He was nuts with Samantha Fox.
But,
inspired you to become a musician, I would imagine Ace and Eddie, but is there anything else that you would say was another inspiration? Did your family do music too, or?
Yeah, no, man. I grew up in a very athletic family. My dad was a semi-pro baseball player. He actually pitched against the 57 Yankees.
Wow.
And my brother was an all-century baseball and football player for Paramus, New Jersey. And I was an athlete. My other brother was an equestrian horse rider. So we were very much sports-oriented. But my grandfather, he played piano. And that was the first musical thing that I learned. And I learned how to play chopsticks. And I would play it with him. But in my house, my family was they were all into music. So growing up, my first musical memory, which you guys are probably you're going to dig this. I remember watching with my mom and dad the Elvis live Aloha from Hawaii special. I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it because, I was 3 years old at the time, and watching that, it was like, and seeing my mother's reaction. And I remember, and it's still to this day, it's ingrained in my head, seeing how cool Elvis looked.
Oh,
He was for me, he was at the peak there. He was tan in that white suit. He was the coolest thing. And I just remember going, I don't really know what that is, but it feels good. Like, it gave me a feeling. So as a kid, there was Elvis, all music playing all the time. There was the Beatles, Abbey Road. There was Neil Diamond live at the Hollywood Bowl, his live record from the mid-'70s. And then it was Fleetwood Mac Rumors, which for probably 2 years was every day in my house. So there was always music. And luckily, my brothers are 12 and 10 years older than me. So they were listening to, I had my older brother Mike was into like Skynyrd and the Eagles, where my middle brother Chris was into the B-52s and, like new wave. So I
You're getting the whole gamut.
Yeah, man, I got a really wide gamut of influences. But, dude, I was obsessed with Kiss and Van Halen. And it was immediate in the sense of that I became what I was talking about before, reading the magazines and reading the records, and I remember, man, when Ace and I started working on 10,000 volts, and we were just really getting reacquainted with each other and really becoming friends. And I told him, man, when I was a little kid, I knew everything about Kiss to the point where I knew who their trucking company was. I knew who their booking agent was. And this is when I was 8 or 9. This is when I was 8 or 9 years old.
You got me beat.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was and it was immediate that I was obsessed with it. And the same thing goes with Van Halen, and my friendship with Ed and Alex Van Halen, for 30 plus years with those guys. I told Ed the same thing. I said, man, I read your magazines. I knew that, Rudy Laren was your guitar tech, and I knew that, Frank Barcelona was your booking agent at Premier Talent, and Noel Monk was your manager, but he was your tour manager first. And he was, it was one of those things. And again, that's what, for me and my career, it's never been just about being a musician where it's just about playing guitar, writing songs, and singing. I'm also a businessman. I was the leader of Trixter at 12 years old, and I led the charge that got us a record deal. And I learned from guys like John Bon Jovi and Gene Simmons, that business, it's the music business. It's not show friends, it's show business. So I learned really early on about the intricacies of the business, and I think when I was probably 12, 13 or 14, my brother, Mike, my older brother, he bought me the Don Passman book, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, and I learned early on, about doing things. And luckily, again, I spent most of my time at Sam Ash Music in Paramus, New Jersey, and there was a lot of older guys there who kind of took me under their wing, and guys that I'm still friends with to this day that, any questions I had, I would ask them. So it was again, that was that magical thing about growing up when we did in the 80s, 70s and 80s, and doing that. But it was and still to this day, I got to be honest with you, man, all these years later, I'm still that same 13-year-old kid, let's say, who's obsessed with rock and roll and all things, because literally when I'm home and I'm not on tour, I still spend probably 6 to 8 hours a day down in my studio working on multiple things, multiple projects, and always creating and always writing. It's part of my DNA.
So you kind of touched on it a little bit with I Want You, but do you have a song that you remember specifically making you fall in love with music?
I mean, oh God, no, I mean, it was numerous, but the sound, I always say, Rock and Roll Over, that was my first introduction to hard rock. And so that is so powerful to me. And, the story of it, it's I Want You into Take Me. And then I think what third is Calling Dr. Love? Is that the running order of Rock and Roll Over?
I believe Calling Dr. Love is third.
Yeah, so by the time that one came on and then hearing Gene's voice, with his, man, it was like, I just couldn't get enough. And I just listened to it over and over, and I just loved it more. And that, to me, Rock and Roll Over, in my opinion, is their best record, song for song. And it's something about it that just speaks to me, and still to this day, every time I listen to it, I get that feeling, just like I do when I listen.
Great album.
When I listen to Van Halen 1. But man, every song on the record is awesome, and it sounds so good. The production.
Yeah, production was great on that album.
And it's just and the song for song, and those, I think a lot of those songs on the record were the ones that stood the test of time. And even when they reunited, they did a lot of the songs off Rock and Roll Over. And again, that was it. And then, Van Halen 1, of course, was, the absolute game changer, because, I've said, and I think probably anybody with a half a brain can agree, Kiss were like superheroes to us, they were sort of untouchable. And especially when I saw them live on the Dynasty tour, at the Garden. I was there at the second night. I think it was July 25th, 1979. And seeing them, it was like when they rose out of the stage, I was like, oh, and then they came out and they did it. And it was like, whoa, this was cool. But it was unbelievable, if you know what I mean. Then fast forward 3 years later, I got to see Van Halen for the first time on the Diver Down tour, and seeing them as, these wild, crazy, it was a rock and roll party, where KISS was this bombastic show with the fireworks. A Van Halen show back then was like New Year's Eve, your birthday, and a bar mitzvah. It was the craziest party, a strip bar live in Madison Square Garden, right there. And it was, for me, that was the moment where I go, this is what I want to do. Because, KISS at that point, again, they were superheroes. But Van Halen, they were real dudes, and they were jumping around and smiling the whole time. And, you could tell it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll and fun.
The epitome of that,
and I'm a big, I'm a big beach guy. I grew up going to summers at the Jersey Shore. So for me, Van Halen was it was like summertime all year round. That's what Van Halen represents to me.
That's a good
So
take.
that was much more realistic and attainable for me. And that was the blueprint, right there. That I was like, this is the kind of band that I want to have. And, and then in between that, I also became obsessed with Cheap Trick. And Cheap Trick was the band that really taught me how to songwrite. And I learned my songwriting chops from them, from the record Dream Police, because I knew when I heard that record that they had such a Beatles influence, and I was able to go back to where my parents listening to Abbey Road. And I always loved Abbey Road because, I guess when I was young, I had this ability to hear song structure. So that's what helped me develop my songwriting skills. And, I remember one of the first songs that I wrote was I did a copy of I took Ladies Room by KISS, and I wrote all their lyrics out, and I held it on the left side, and then on the right side, I looked at each line and I wrote my own words out. And they was, I was probably 10, 11 years old at that point. And I remember showing my mom and dad that I wrote this song, and my mother reading these lyrics, and I had no idea what the fuck I was writing, but
that's
I'm
really cool.
Changing whatever, the lyrics to Ladies Room. I'll meet you, greet you in the girls' room, I think it was. My mother, I remember my mother going, Steve, he said to my dad was Charlie Brown, and my mother was going, Charlie, I think you need to talk to Steven about these lyrics that he's writing. These aren't very nice for a 11-year-old boy. And again, man, I had no fucking idea what I was writing about, but I just knew that if I copied the structure, and that's sort of how I learned songwriting, along with copying Van Halen songs and Cheap Trick.
That's
so
wild.
Those three bands were, but yeah, that was funny, man. That was a funny one.
It's a good thing you didn't never release that song, because you'd owe Gene a check.
Oh well, come on now. You could any smart guys, you go through the KISS catalog. Those guys were awesome borrowers.
Yeah.
As we all did. David Lee Roth said the line years ago, man, and I still to this day use it all the time. Amateurs imitate, professionals steal. And again, man, it's only stealing if you unless you get caught.
Correct.
So if you get away with it. But again, that's how I think we all learned. I mean, Gene and Paul learned their songwriting from basically copying Beatles songs, and a lot of the early KISS stuff, direct ripoff of the Stones. I mean, Strutter basically is a ripoff of Brown Sugar.
Wow.
I never put that together.
I think Paul.
Wow.
Yeah, totally.
Listen to it.
Woo.
I heard something the other, and Cold Gin is very much, I think Ace even told me this, that he borrowed, that's, if you listen to it, it's very similar to All Right Now by Free. Dun, 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 That's what
Well,
we do.
it's gotta be hard not to borrow and steal because how many different songs can you make before
Right.
you start? I mean, not they you got to change something, but I imagine it's not limitless
I mean,
unless your name is like Eddie Van Halen, in which case the entire world is pretty much limitless.
Yeah. Well,
hmm.
he wrote a new. He was, the complete innovator who completely revolutionized rock music and rock guitar forever. And no one since that time has done anything remotely close to it. But, again, that was it. And that love is something, as all these years later, I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine the other day about working in the studio. And every day, guys, I still learn something new. And I get such a good feeling out of that. When I have to figure something out, whether I'm editing something in Pro Tools or, even coming up with new songwriting techniques, because I still like to try to push the envelope and, try to do something different. I mean, let's be real here. We're writing hard rock music and that's what I do. But, I'm always trying to, look for something, look for something unique, that I haven't done. And that's been, over the last decade or so, that's always been like something that I'm very aware of, that I'm very conscious of, trying to go like, oh man, I never wrote a song with this kind of feel, or I never wrote a song that had a sax solo in it, let's say. And,
Hmm.
even though I have had two songs in my career, one was a Trixter song that Edgar Winter actually played sax on, a song called One Mo' Time for the If Looks Could Kill soundtrack. And then a couple years ago on Tokyo Motor Fist Lions, I had Mark Rivera from Billy Joel's band played a sax solo, and I had that because I was so tired of doing guitar solos. I'm like, I don't want to record another guitar solo. I want to get a sax on this.
Wow.
You
Hey,
know
if it
what?
worked for Eddie Money,
That's
I,
it
oh
can
yeah,
work for Steve Brown.
and not
that's
for
right.
nothing, like to me, saxophone when they do their runs and guitar does their runs on the solos, there's a lot of similarities there too.
Of course. I mean, I've told numerous people you want to learn to be a really good guitar player and well versed. Learn to play the sax solo from Born to Run. Clarence
Mm.
Mm.
Clements on guitar. And that's a great model. If you can play that, and transpose that to guitar, you can write
Wow,
yourself a good solo using that. But
that's really cool.
Wow.
Is there like one person completely that sticks out that was like a mentor, maybe somebody that wouldn't even be somebody that we would know, that was like a mentor that gave you good advice?
yeah, I mean, I've had numerous great guitar teachers that were hugely instrumental in my career. First and foremost was my main guitar teacher when I was like 12 or 13. This guy Ross Barada, who he played in a local New Jersey cover band, this band called Harlot that had the late great Ray Gillen in it. Ray Gillen from
Oh, okay.
Badlands and Black Sabbath. So I knew Ray when I was 11 years old. I met him. My original first drummer, Mike Payne, used to cut their drummer's lawn. And so we used to go over there as kids and watch this band rehearse in my buddy George's garage. So Ross,
Cool.
I started taking guitar lesson from him, and he was so instrumental in teaching me all the right elements of being a great guitar player, practicing with a metronome, stuff that I still do to this day. And he was a great influence because he would let me as a little kid sit in and watch these guys rehearse, and watching 20 something guys in 1982 rehearse in a garage playing at 120 decibels with fucking
That's
Marshall
awesome.
stacks, playing Dio, playing Black
Fuck yeah.
Sabbath, playing Van
Yeah,
Halen, playing
that's
Deep
awesome.
Purple, and smoking cigarettes and drinking and doing
At
drugs.
12 years
And
old.
I
Oh my
was like,
God.
I was a fucking little kid, like going, what is this? And they had all their hot girlfriends walking around, and I was like, again, it was those moments where I'm like, I want
Yeah,
this.
this is my
I
world.
want this. And yeah, so Ross, and then there was another guy who still to this day is a very, very dear friend of mine, the guy John Chrissy, who you real Trixter fans will know. John was the guy who produced our first Trixter demo tape, the Just Having Fun, people call it, but it's got You Got Me Running on it, Take the Chance. Coincidentally, it was the demo tape that we gave to John Bon Jovi that he called us and told us how much potential we had, and that began our relationship and my friendship with John, and then John introduced us to the Skid Row guys, and it was sort of when Slippery When Wet Mania took over the world. We were third in line, if you will, for getting a record deal because of the phenomenon. And so, but yeah, his name was John Chrissy, and he was the guy who taught me how to build stuff. And, he was the only guy I ever met back in, like, I'm going to say 1984, he literally built his own PA with his hands. He built this giant monstrosity PA that could probably blow Madison Square Garden up, so loud.
Wow.
Steve, I got to ask this question.
Yeah.
How old were you when John Bon Jovi called you?
I was, I think, 16 at the time. Or no, I think I was maybe 15. It was, it was 1986. Yeah, no, I was 16 at the time. And it was, we'd become friends with those guys a little bit through numerous other people. A very good friend of ours who's no longer with us, guy Dean Fasano, who was the singer in the Jersey band Prophet back in the early 90s. He was also in Message with Richie Sambora back in the late 70s. And Dean was a huge inspiration to us. And I co-wrote some Trixter songs with Dean, Line of Fire, most importantly. And, Dean brought us in when, again, right when they got done recording Slippery When Wet, they did a spirit contest, Z100 like spirit contest at this Catholic school in Passaic, New Jersey. And we drove around. We kind of knew where it was, but we drove around. We heard about it. And me and Pete and a couple of our friends, my buddy Jim DeSalvo, again, another guy who's no longer with us, drove around New Jersey, driving around, Passaic, trying to find the school, and we finally found it. And we got there, and the security guy was like, "Oh no, you guys can't come in." And then Dean Fasano comes out, "Oh no, it's the Trixter guys, come on in." And we got to watch the show, and it was, I'm going to say it was June of 86. So they had finished recording Slippery When Wet, and they played the show for like 100 people at this, this Catholic school in the auditorium. And they did like 6 or 7 songs from Slippery When Wet. And it was the coolest thing. And we gave John one of our flyers, and he, right after the show, he looked at me and Pete, and he looked at the flyer, and he goes, "You two guys," and he gave a thumbs up. And then about a month later or 2 months later, Pete and our drummer went and met John at the Hard Rock Cafe and gave him our demo tape. And a week later, he called us on the Trixter hotline and, said, hey, Peter, this is John Bon Jovi. I got your tape. I think you guys got a lot of potential. He had that Southern Jersey drawl, almost like a Philly thing back then. It was funny. But Pete's, it's on Pete's YouTube. I have the audio of it. It was, again, and then a couple months later, we were backstage at the Bon Jovi Slippery When Wet, Bon Jovi Cinderella New Year's Eve show at the Meadowlands Arena.
Really cool.
And then after the show, we snuck backstage because that's what we used to do at every show. We used to sneak backstage, and all the security guys knew who we were because we were playing out then, and everybody, it was the Jersey thing. Oh, it's the Trixter guys. They never asked us. We never had backstage passes, but we were backstage at every show.
That's awesome.
And we were waiting there, and John came out, and he's like, "Trixter, what's up, you Trixter motherfuckers?" He goes, "Come here. I want to introduce you to some guys, another band I'm working with." And it was, "Hey man, Steve, this is Snake, Rachel, and Rob." It was the, and Scotty. It was the 4/5 of what was the original Skid Row. And that became a friendship that, changed our lives because, John said, "Make sure you take care of these guys." And Snake and Rachel became like our big brothers, Scotty and Rob as well. And then when Sebastian joined Skid Row, one of the first shows he did in America was at Studio One in Newark, New Jersey, and Trixter opened up the show. So
you started Trixter at 12 years old. That blows my mind. How does a 12-year-old navigate the rock scene?
Well, how do I do? Well, Trixter, I started it. The light bulb moment was reading Circus Magazine. It was an article about Def Leppard. And I read that Rick Allen, their drummer, was 15 when he joined the band. And I was like, boom, because, dude, I didn't know when you were that young that you could start a band and actually make it big. I thought you had to wait. Oh, it's like joining the army. Oh, wait, you can't be a rock star unless you're 18. But I was reading 16 magazine. You see all these punk kids in the magazines, that were teenage heartthrobs, but there weren't many young rock bands. So I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. Here it is. Trixter's the concept. Even though we weren't Trixter at the time, when I started the band, we were Raid, RADE. And it was kind of a play on the Rock Brigade, Def Leppard Rock Brigade. And I was like the Raid Brigade, the Rock Brigade. So it was Raid until everybody was like, nah, it sounds like a bug spray. And I'm like, no, man, it's Def Leppard. But it was, again, the Def Leppard influence was that. And, and again, they were at that point, 81, 82, I was already well into, AC/DC, Def Leppard. I remember hearing the first Def Leppard album, Rock Brigade, still one of my favorite songs by them. And, but that was the direct influence. It was like, that was it. Trixter is going to be a Raid. We're going to be the youngest band. We're going to jump around more. We're going to be better looking. We're going to have better hair. Girls are going to love us more. We're going to be louder. We're going to be like Van Halen and Def Leppard and Bon Jovi. And, and that's kind of what it was, man. And again, it was, I was raised, my parents were great. Thank God they're still with me at 91 years old. But my parents were great influences in the sense my dad always said, and it was the sports influence. He always said, man, just do your best to be your best and try your best. And it was those times where anything was possible.
Yeah.
There wasn't all this shit that's on the internet, these self-help people who tell you what you can do, what you can't do, how you should eat, what you should do. Back then, everything was, no one knew really that much. You know what I mean?
Right.
No
was a simpler time.
No one knew
Simpler
that
time.
drinking too much soda would rot your teeth. No, I don't even think back in 1984 they knew that smoking was bad for you.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, wasn't it in the 80s? Cocaine was good for you. Why couldn't?
Well, according to a lot of celebrities, it was.
Yeah, of course it was, and politicians too. But dude, it was like, why can't a 12-year-old kid from Paramus, New Jersey, with a never-ending love for rock and roll, why can't he start a band and play? Pete Lauren, whose name was Pete Archibald at the time, but he was 4 years older than me, and it was very much like when Motley Crue saw Vince Neil. Pete wasn't a singer at the time, but he was the heartthrob of our town. He was the best looking kid. He's still a great looking guy. But back then, and again, man, it was my sort of, leader, being a captain mentality, where I looked at him and I said, if I could get that dude to grow his hair long, I can teach him how to sing. He can move like John Bon Jovi and David Lee Roth. I got a chance at this. And that's exactly what I did, because he wasn't a singer. And I called him up and I said, hey man, I play guitar, and I played guitar for him over the phone. And he goes, that's not you. That's the record. That's Van Halen. And I go, no, man, it's me. And I played, and I'm like, and I told him after, I gave him the pitch. I said, listen, man, I'm starting a band and I'm looking for a singer, and I think you could be a singer. And he goes, well, I never thought about singing, but I'll give it a try. And probably 2 weeks later, we got together and we worked on one of the first real songs I ever wrote, the song Mistress, which I've talked about before. It was in the Nothing But a Good Time documentary. You're a mistress of the day, you're a mistress of the night, looking for a fool and a fool to bite. Oh yeah. It was also kind of a ripoff of like Making Love and Romeo Delight by Van Halen. Still, I'm gonna finish that song. All you Trixter fans out there, I'm gonna finish that song at some point. But that was it, man, and we were off to the races. And the first show we ever did was, my dad was also my middle school and high school teacher. He was a vice principal by the time I was in, 6th grade. And so the winter of 1984, we did our first show as Raid at the Eastbrook Middle School auditorium in front of, probably 100 screaming girls, a teen assembly program. And that was the beginning of it, man. All we all needed to hear was that it was like a mini Beatlemania show. The girls were going nuts, and it was like, man, we looked at each other and going, we're going to do this forever. This is the best.
That had to feel like a sold out stadium show. 100 high school girls screaming in an auditorium.
It was the best, man. It was the best, and still to this day, but I will tell you, it was a sold out middle school auditorium show because it was sold out.
Heck yeah.
Basically, when music changed with the 80s going into like the whole grunge era, how did you adapt during the times? Like what was how did it affect you when the music changed at an era?
Well, it was the end of an era. It was the end of the whole hard rock hair band thing, and it was tough, but luckily, dude, I was I was 24, 25 years old by the time 95. That was 95, 96 is when we finally put Trixter on pause, and we knew that there was no hope for us. And I was young enough to where, PJ and I said, we got to start a new band. And we reinvented ourselves. And, I started this band, Throwing Rocks, which was kind of like an Oasis, Lenny Kravitz, Black Crowes type thing. And I hardly was playing guitar in it, man. I was doing like, frontman thing. And it was a complete change of, everything to try to reinvent, and try to,
it was a crazy time.
Catch lightning in a bottle again. But sadly for PJ and I, all the years that we had different bands, we had Throwing Rocks, we had Soaked, we had 40-Foot Ringo, we came so close to getting some great big like major label deals and to be a part of the scene with bands like Lit, be there with Marvelous 3, Matchbox 20, I wrote these songs, and a lot of the stuff is online. Man, the stuff was as good as anything else that sold millions and millions of records. But one thing that you learn in this business, and what happened to us a lot, where when it came down to the getting that final stage of getting that record deal, a lot of the times what would come up, and it's a blessing and a curse because our success with Trixter, this is why I have all this. I have a great life and a career because of it. But at that time, it was a curse because we would get, oh man, I just can't sign the guys from Trixter. Man, this is like hip and now, man. I'm even though you sound like Scott Weiland, you still were in Trixter. And dude, PJ and I, we got that a lot. And it was a bummer, kind of the discrimination thing, but, it is what it is. But, it was tough adapting to it, but, man, I wrote some great music. It's when I built this studio and I learned how to become a real producer, engineer, mixer, and learn really how to make records. And, so I'm thankful for that. But, look, man, I would have liked, man, if Trixter came out, maybe 2 years earlier.
Timing, right?
We got some of that success like Warrant and Winger had where, 2 double platinum records. But you know what, man? We were a part of arguably the greatest genre and the greatest decade of music ever. And I'm forever grateful because of that.
It's such an interesting and fascinating thing to me to look at the dates that records came out. And a lot of times you can just look at the date and exactly what happened. Like Trixter and yes, these two guys are going to make a face. Jackal. I'm a huge Jackal fan. And I didn't become a Jackal fan till a couple years ago. I was aware of them, but I knew somebody that knew Jesse James Dupree, and I got to go to a Jackal show. And after the show, I was like, okay, why are these guys not huge? What is wrong with the world? And then I went home and I went on Wikipedia, so it doesn't have to be accurate. We just learned. But I look on Wikipedia and I go, oh, that's why. Their album came out in the early 90s. I think their album came out in 1991. Oh, that's the Kiss of Death. If that album And I think the same thing of Trixter and the same thing of a bunch of bands. If those albums come out in 1986, 87, we're having a completely different conversation because of it. And I still think, as a fan, it blows my mind that you started your answer out by saying that it was the end of an era.
Yeah.
I don't believe it was. It was the pause of an era, because now you look 30 years later, all you guys, we're all old, all your fans are old, but you guys are so much back in fashion. And where is grunge? Grunge was the fad. Hair metal wasn't the fad, because hair metal is still around. They don't call it hair metal, but it's still around. I mean, I'm not a big fan of grunge, but to me, it seems like the fad came in and destroyed a very good musical genre that wasn't too serious about itself. It was about girls and parties, and it was about things that kids my age wanted to listen to. I mean, I wanted to rock and roll all night and party every day. I did not want to listen to anything that Neil Young had to say, or for that matter, and it's nothing against Nirvana, but I didn't want to hear what Nirvana had to say. That shit was way too serious for me. I wanted to hear about, you know, John Bon Jovi's Social Disease. That was my education.
I remember also that Spirit contest when we got to see Bon Jovi before Slippery when it came out. They did that song, and they had, like, I think they had Southside Johnny's horn section there.
Ooh.
And I thought that was the coolest thing. But you know, look, man, history has shown any style of music or any sort of phenomenon that gets so big as did our 80s hard rock, it always bursts. The bubble
The bubble has to burst.
I mean, it's what happened with, you know, whether it's what happened in the 60s to the 60s hard, you know, the bubblegum pop bands of the 60s, and then the 70s, the soft rock bands, and then disco, of course, is prime example, even though disco's, you know, the flame burned out much quicker than hard rock. You know, I think hard rock, you know, the 80s from 1980 to 1990, we had a good 10-year. And I think, honestly, I don't think there's any other genre of music that has had that long of a solid hit-making machine, if you will. Because you have bands from 1980, hard rock bands, up until 1990, 91, still selling 1 million, 2 million records every time out. You know, and I don't think there's any other genre that's lasted that long. Grunge only lasted for 5 years.
Right.
At best. You know, and then, you know, the power pop that came after that only lasted. New metal only lasted about 3 or 4 years. You know, and then I really think, you know, again, and it goes back to what I was saying before about the 80s. It's the most, I think it's definitely, probably, if not the most important decade, one or two of the most important decades for the growth of this country in every aspect. But most importantly,
that's well said. It was such a simpler time. It was such
entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, the advent of MTV changed everything.
Speaking of that, we are all kids of the MTV era. What did MTV mean to your career?
Oh, man, it was massive. You know, Trixter was a made for MTV band. You know, that's the way I designed it. You know, I designed it for us to be, you know, on the cover of Teen Beat magazine, but also be on the cover of Circus magazine, which we were. And that was, to me, that was the home run. That was the appeal. That's why Bon Jovi became such a huge influence on us, because I knew that it was, you know, and it's no secret, dude, wherever pretty girls go, there's going to be guys there. And that was our thing, man. When we started playing the clubs, when we started taking off, it was like all the beautiful girls would come see Trixter, and the place was packed with guys as well. And it was a party. And, But MTV, again, man, we were made for MTV, and we made a video that changed the face of hard rock, because Give It To Me Good was extremely different than everything else that was out there. Put us, like with Warrant and Winger, you look at that video, there was no other band that was riding dirt bikes. There was no other band that was hanging out at a suburban diner eating cheeseburgers with pretty girls. And there was no other band that had a Toyota 4Runner pickup truck with a baby pool in the back driving down Spring Valley Road. We were different, and that reacted. And along with the sound of our first record, as much as I hate it because we ran out of money and we didn't have money to properly mix the record, but long story short, that worked to our favor because it was much more of a sort of garage rock sound. It wasn't as polished, let's say, as I would have liked it. I wanted our record to sound like a cross between Van Halen 1 and Hysteria, And if you listen to the 1 in a Million remix that Mike Shipley, Def Leppard's engineer, did for the single of 1 in a Million, that's sort of what I wanted. But for Give It To Me Good, the sound and the look of that video, and of course, let's not forget, Trixter was the band that brought flannel shirts into rock and roll. into hard rock, because the Eagles and the 70s bands and the Southern rock bands were wearing flannel shirts, but we were the first let's say 80s hard rock band that instead of wearing the Fleur de Meyer or whatever, all those the custom clothes from the LA designers that everybody was wearing, we were wearing Levi's jeans, you ripped up rock t-shirts, flannel shirts, jean jackets, and Converse All-Stars.
And Pearl Jam and Nirvana take credit for that all the time. And they shouldn't, among lots of things.
Yeah, they know where they got it. Everybody knows where they got it from. Alice in Chains, we were friends with those guys. They got it from us.
Good. Let's set this record straight.
You seem to have been the Swiss Army knife on Ace Frehley's last album, 10,000 Volts. Co-produced, co-wrote, sang backing vocals, played guitar and bass. So how did you first connect with Ace, and how was it working with one of your childhood heroes?
Well,
that was a really long question.
It was a dream come true and one of the greatest experiences of my life, and more importantly, God bless Ace, and we all miss him. And, more than making music with him, we became super, super tight as friends and brothers. And I miss him so much. He spent so much time here at the house, and we had some of the greatest times together. But, working with him, it started out with, I'd known Ace. I met Ace coincidentally the first time backstage at Skid Row Bon Jovi Meadowlands Arena in 1989 when Ace came out and did Cold Gin with Skid Row. I was in the dressing room. That was the first time I met him. I was like, Snake introduced me to him. And, hey, Ace, this is my friend Steve from the band Trixter. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Quintessential Ace. And, but we've seen each other numerous times. Eddie Trunk brought me and PJ to hang with Ace a couple times at some of the KISS conventions. But fast forward to, right after we were all able to start playing gigs after COVID, I had just released the second Tokyo Motor Fist record, which is a band that I had with Ted Poley, Greg Smith, and Chuck Berge, a great melodic hard rock band, one of these all-star bands on Frontiers Records. And a bunch of people in Ace's camp, so Tokyo Motor Fist got to open some shows for Ace. Ace's first shows back after COVID, which were like East Coast. We did the Patchogue Theater, we did play the HMAC in Harrisburg, and we did the Chance in Poughkeepsie. And when we were doing that, everybody, a couple of guys in Ace's camp, Phil Dealey, who actually worked for Trixter back in the day, and John Astronomy were like going, man, you got to work with Ace. You would be great with him. And Ace's fiance at the time, Lara, who was, PJ and I grew up with, she's a Jersey girl, and she kind of, her and, a couple other people facilitated it and, just kind of said, hey, come up with some ideas and send them to us and we'll get it to Ace. And so I came up with, a couple ideas, which Walking on the Moon, Fighting for Life, Cherry Medicine, which other one that I had? Those, but it was Walking on the Moon, which, was the first thing I sent to him, and I'll never forget it, man. All of a sudden, I just got out of the shower. I kid you not. And my phone rings and I look and it says Paul Frehley. I go, holy shit. He's finally calling me. And he calls and Steve, what's up? It's Ace. You know, I listened to the song. It's great. You know, he goes, but, and it was so cool because before we had even talked about doing anything, he was immediately in creative mode. And that's one of the things, anybody who's ever worked with Ace, when Ace is working and he's focused, he was phenomenal. He would get it, you know, we would come up with great ideas, but he was like screaming over the phone, we got to do this. We're going to change the title. It's going to be called Walking on the Moon. That's also going to be the title of the record. And we got to add a bridge. And then it was like, when can you come over? And I was like, whoa, man, I didn't even get a word in edgewise. And he's already like, we're planning this record that we haven't even started making yet. But lo and behold, probably about 5 days later after that phone call, I went over to his house in Sparta in the studio and we worked on, and we pretty much finished what became Walking on the Moon. You know, Ace did his vocal, and I'll never forget one of the coolest, you know, how Ace was so endearing. I mean, we all know that Ace didn't like to practice, you know, whether it's singing or guitar playing, but so when we finished writing the lyrics, most of the lyrics of the song, we're like, oh, this is great. And I said to him, because this is what I do with a lot of singers. This is what I used to do at Trixter all the time. I would finish the song and I would make a rough demo with me singing. You know, I would sing the song and I'd either give it to Peter or, you know, in this instance, I said to Ace, I said, hey man, do you want me to sing this? I'll go up on the mic and sing a scat version, you know, kind of the melody and the phrasing so you can hear it. And he looked at me and he looked at me and he goes, what? So I can have practice. He goes, I don't practice. He goes, set up the mic. I'm going to get up. We'll start singing. He goes, just tell me what to sing. We'll do line by line. And that's what we did. And I kid you not, what is on the record is what we recorded that first day.
Wow.
After that, I made a rough mix of Walking on the Moon. We sent it to the label, Monarch. His guys there, Scott Givens and Steve Seabury, who become really good friends of mine. They heard that, everybody at the record label, and they heard that original rough demo, which is pretty much what is the final record. You know, what you hear, when they heard that, they were like, this is awesome. We want this. And that was it. We were off to the races.
I think that record is probably the best since his work in the 80s. I mean, I really do. It's unfortunate that we won't get another one.
Yeah.
Because I do believe it would have only gotten better.
Yeah, it's a shame. You know, we had a lot of plans and, you know, I was sending Ace some rough ideas and, you know, it's just such a tragedy what happened to him. And, you know, I just wish he was here. We all do, you know, and it's one of the toughest things. And I even have a hard time, you know, realizing that he's not here, you know, especially, and I showed you some of these, here are some of the lyrics, you know, the handwritten lyrics from when we would work. God, and I remember, so man, awesome. The first time he came over, I didn't have any of these legal pads. And he goes, Steve, you got to go to Staples and get legal pads.
Brother, thank you so much for showing us that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Really cool. You know?
We know people that would kill to have that in their hands.
Yeah.
They would kill for it. So tell us a little bit about Always Jovi, the new hot project.
Yeah, well, Always Jovi is my my brand new tribute, a tribute like no other, celebrating music of Bon Jovi. It started, you know, funny enough, probably, you know, 13 years ago when I got the call to do the fill-ins for Def Leppard. You know, the Def Leppard guys have been friends of mine since I was a teenager. And Phil always told me, man, you know, he was always such a big fan of my singing. And he always would say, God, you sound so much like John Bon Jovi, but, you know, like a cross between John and Richie. Him and Joe Elliott used to say that. And over the years, it's just been in my mind, you know, and I was in a a tribute band for a long time, Rubik's Cube, a 80s band, and I would sing some of the Bon Jovi stuff, and I really dug my heels into it, getting that, that sound, John's vocal sound, the angels smile, what you sell, that thing where it's kind of similar with the Def Leppard sound. And like, going back to the Def Leppard thing, I got that gig not because of my guitar playing, not because of the cool hair or whatever, it's because I could sing, and it was like to be able to do the pour some sugar on me, to have that sound. The mutt,
Right.
as Joe Elliott used to say, Steve does all the mutt bits. He does all the mutt parts. But Always Jovi was something last year. Two of my really good friends, Greg Smith and Robbie Hoffman, who are in the Journey band Voyage, it just kind of popped in my head. I was kind of learning about the business and how big tribute bands have become. My other good friend Tommy Zamp is in Get the Let Out, who is, these guys play arenas, this tribute band, and a lot of these tribute bands. And I was like, man, this is something that I want to do. And, I wish Trixter was, playing arenas and stadiums where I was making millions of dollars a year, but that's not the case. Trixter is a great, as I like to say, like a great part-time job, money wise. And look, I'm a self-employed musician, so I have to always make money. So Jovi came about where I had this concept and I put together a set list and I said, you know what, it's now or never, it's my life. It's now or never.
Great song. I love that song.
So I kind of got in my head. I put together a band, friends of mine, Fred Gorhau from the Wizards of Winter plays guitar. He plays Sambora to the T. And my drummer, Joey Casada's in the band from, who played with me with Eric Martin, ZO2. And he's been doing a lot of the KISS stuff. You guys saw him out at the the Kiss Cancer Goodbye thing. He's just unbelievable how he nails that stuff. But he also plays so much like Tico, and he, coincidentally, getting back to the Ace record, the song Fighting for Life, we had 3 drummers do different versions of it. And Anton's version, of course, is what's on the record. But Joey did a pass on it, and Kent Slucher from Quarantine and Luke Bryan's band also did a pass. And they're all very different. But Joey's was very much like the way Tico Torres would play. And it always stuck in my mind. But long story short, we have, our female singer, Devin Marie, who is Debbie Gibson's background singer. She's also was in Rubik's Cube with me. And so we brought her in because this way, I wanted to do something that was different than all the rest. And what we're doing is, it's not a look-alike band. I'm not wearing a wig. We're not doing it. It's very much like Get the Let Out. It's pitch perfect, note perfect. We do the songs in the original keys.
You definitely
And, from what I've seen, I haven't heard a singer in any of the Jovi tribute bands that comes as close to sounding like John as I do. And for me, it's so natural. I sang the whole set 2 hours before I did this interview, man. And it's like, I'm sitting there just going, man, this sounds really good. And, again, it always helps to do a tribute or be in a band that they're one of your favorite, their music is your favorite. And Bon Jovi was always such a massive influence and inspiration for us. I mean, Richie Sambora was the reason that I became a lead singer guitar player. When I saw Bon Jovi open up for Rat in 1985, that was a game changer for me. That was the 3rd most important concert of my life, seeing Bon Jovi. And most importantly, for seeing Richie sing and play guitar and perform and look great. And I was like, that's exactly what I need to do. And from that moment on, I focused on more than even playing lead guitar. I focused on becoming a great harmony singer to do what Richie did with Bon Jovi. But then, of course, over the last 40 years of being a singer, now I am a lead singer in numerous bands, and I'm also the lead singer in Trixter now.
Yes, you are. And let me tell you, Always Jovi, mind blowing. Really is.
Seriously.
And it's not just visually, it was mind blowing. Everything about it, like the stuff that you did at Alpha Wave that's been all over. Yeah, it's the John Bon Jovi mic stand.
Yeah, I mean, look, if anything that I do, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all the way. And so Again, it's such a labor of love, and John, has been such a great, again, supporter. And I saw John a couple years ago, 2022 at Gwyneth Paltrow's 50th birthday party, and I'm praying for him, man, and I've offered my help to him and through him and through his camp to help him with his voice. And I saw Dave Bryan a couple weeks ago. I jammed with Dave Bryan down in Nashville, and I'm hoping nobody wants them and John to succeed more than I do, man. I'm pulling for him, and I wish him the best. But Always Jovi, yeah, we're launching it April 18th in Versailles, Ohio, and we got a bunch of dates booked, and it's really just been so much fun putting it together. And I'm putting together a killer production with it. I bought an LED wall that's in my garage and learning that. And it's, again, man, it's what I was saying before, the drive of learning. It's not just playing music. I'm still into technology, so learning how to do content and video screens. And my buddy Nick Thierry from That Arena Rock Show is my partner in helping me launch Always Jovi, and manages it with me. And he's been such an incredible help and inspiration in doing this and doing it right, because I want to go out and make, I want John and the guys to see this and go, man, that's really good. I don't want it to be like, oh God, another tribute band.
Right.
There's enough.
Where
So we got a unique thing going, and I love all the other tribute bands out there, and I'm a big fan, because in this day and age, as years go on, we're losing more and more of our heroes, and so tribute bands are really good. And getting back to a new great tribute band, I've been helping out my buddy Space Frehley, who is this guy Aaron from the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. I don't know if you've seen his videos, but he is phenomenal, and I'm helping him put together a really, really beautiful tribute for Ace, and his band is phenomenal, and he does a spot on job of doing Ace.
he does. I actually
real
met
good.
him at the KISS cruise landlocked.
Yep, so did I, man.
And man, if I didn't know better from 10 foot away, he's walked like him, talked like him. I mean, he had me for a minute if I didn't know what I knew. Steve, we got some listener questions.
Sure.
The first one is from Invisible Man 1028. Do you have any of the demos from the 10,000 Volts album? And is there any chance they will ever see the light of day?
Well, thank you for that great question. Yes, I have everything. Yeah, I have everything, and there's a lot of stuff that we're trying to work out. It's up to the family, Monique and Jeanette and the estate of working that out. But I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to get a lot of this stuff released. I mean, there was plans that we were going to do a deluxe edition of 10,000 Volts with some of the extra tracks, one or two of the unfinished songs that we didn't finish, and alternate versions of what we have. I have some different guitar solos, some different vocals, and it would, it's great stuff, And we also have a live record that that was recorded during the summer of 2024 that hopefully we'll be able to get that out. I have that and a 7-camera, HD video shoot from that. So hopefully we'll be able to do a, live album companion DVD. But again, that's out of my hands.
Right. But there's a chance.
Of course there is.
That's good.
I would think that, I think we'll be able to work it out, and I hope so, because the world needs to hear and see this stuff.
Yeah, and it needs to stay alive.
Yes,
and Ace's legacy
Absolutely.
needs to stay alive forever, as
Sure.
far as we're concerned here.
Yep. I've been working on a great book with Ken Sharp and Julian Gill, this Aceland book. I've been really helping that and getting a lot of great interviews and great stuff for that. That's going to be a big coffee table book coming out hopefully within the next year.
Wow.
That's going to be
That's great
incredible.
too.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. But yeah, let's see what happens.
So Mike Lipshansky wants to know, what was your favorite Jersey club to play back in the day?
I mean, I would say the China Club, because that was, where we cut our teeth and built our fan base. You know, we used to play there all the time. We would probably play there 3 times a month. So it was fun, man. It was like we'd play there and then we'd go party at somebody's house. It was the best of times.
Inner Strength Reclaimed asks, looking back at your career from Trixter to now, did you ever imagine you would be celebrating another band's legacy this way? And what has the chapter taught you about longevity in the music industry?
Yeah, I mean, I've always, you know, no pun intended, I've played cover songs and been in, you know, various bands. Again, like what I was talking about before, supplementing the income. You know, I have the thing, what I call the octopus mentality, where it's producing records, playing in multiple bands to make money to put food on my table for my family. So Always Jovi, again, it's a labor of love. It's something that I do really well. It's from my heart. It's one of my favorite bands. And again, I think that that's what it's all about, you know. I'm always up for anything and especially a challenge. If it's going to challenge me musically and mentally, that's what it's all about, you know, to keep growing as a musician. And if I can build Always Jovi into something that some of these tribute bands where you're selling out casinos and festivals all around the country and all around the world for that matter, I have no problem with it because I know that I'm playing Bon Jovi music. I'm playing some of the greatest rock songs ever written.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Now, this is our last listener question, and it comes from one of our OG hooligans that's been with us from the beginning. Joe Pamplemousse asks, how many songs on 10,000 Volts did you play lead guitar on?
Did I play lead guitar on? I played guitar on practically every song along with Ace and my other co-writer David Julian. But lead guitar, where I did lead on Walking on the Moon and 10,000, not 10,000 Volts, Walking on the Moon and Fighting for Life.
And finally, what can all the hooligans look forward to from Steve Brown in 2026?
2026 is shaping up to be a busy year. You know, the Trixter World Tour kicked off last week in North Carolina. We got 2 shows at the end of the month, the 30th and 31st in Bolingbrook, Illinois, Tailgaters, and Avenue 912 in Griffith, Indiana. And yeah, lots of Trixter shows. I have a country tribute called Country Live that's doing our first show in Long Island in February. I'm finishing up the Lorraine Lewis Femme Fatale record for Cleopatra Records. We got, you know, a couple more songs we just finished. Great stuff. She's got an awesome duet coming with a big rock star that everybody's gonna be blown away. So it's been great working with Lorraine. Still working on the long-awaited Trixter new Trixter album that's gonna come out probably next year with our documentary that we've been working on. And I'm so excited for that. And just doing my thing, my SBS guitars, my guitar company launched its brand new 2026 line of guitars that just came out last week. And they're flying off the shelves, so make sure you order one. The best guitar under $1,000 you can buy. So proud of that. SBS guitars.
Yeah,
and you know, Always Jovi, we've just booked about 4 more shows in the last week, so those are going to be announced in the next couple weeks. And just gearing.
You got any exclusives for us about Always Jovi playing in Jersey?
Oh, yeah.
Nope, we don't have a Jersey show yet. A lot of people are asking, but you know, it's we're waiting for the right venue and the right offer and it's got to be right, you know. And again, I'm not rushing out to do this. It's a big show, it's a big production, but I promise you, when you do see it, I believe you're all going to be blown away. And I couldn't be prouder of it. I'm going to say probably fall, we're going to probably have our, you know, big Jersey show. So I can't wait. But it's been really exciting and just everything's awesome. You know, dude, again, like I said, I'm 7 years sober, and I say this to PJ all the time. I say, at this point in our lives, the first 50 years was just a warm up. The next 50 years, even bigger things are going to happen.
I love it.
You know, it's cool. With Trixter now in March, we're going to Australia for the first time. So I'm so looking forward to that. I remember back when KISS went to Australia the first time. I remember when Eric Carr joined the band and they were like, kids are people too. We're going to Australia. We're Trixters finally going to Australia. Can't wait. And every day, dreams still come true for me, and I'm so thankful and grateful, even more now than ever, to still be doing this. And who would have thought that we'd be in our 41st year of Trixter Mania? And
it's mind blowing.
Yeah, actually, no, we're heading July 8th of 2026 will be 42 years since the first Trixter show.
Wow,
that's crazy.
That's amazing.
Last thing, where can our hooligans find out more about you, Trixter, Always Jovi, everything you're doing?
Social media, Steve Brown Rocks, everywhere, Instagram, TikTok, and then Always Jovi is everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, TrixterRocks.com is all the Trixter stuff, the Trixter Facebook. But, my social media, my Instagram is, the one-stop shop to find everything. That's pretty much where I do a majority of my stuff. But that's it, man. And thank you guys for having me on. It was an honor and privilege to be with you. And, we'll do it again and maybe talk more KISS. Maybe we'll do a revenge tour.
Thank you for hanging with the hooligans. I can promise you we will be supporting you in any way we can, and we hope you will come hang with us again in the future.
Definitely. Thank you, guys, because I'm a hooligan.
Yeah.
Ain't go to school again. No, no, no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's a real KISS fan, folks.
That ruled, dude.
Always, bro. All right, guys, I got to jump. I'll see you later.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Yeah! I'll text you tomorrow.
Ow! See ya.
If you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, please leave us a review. And if you just found us, check out our past episodes. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel and you like this episode, please consider hitting the like button, just like them guys, and leaving us a comment. Hit that subscribe button, just like them guys, so you don't miss any future episodes, and check out these episodes right here. As always, if you made it this far, thank you for supporting us. And don't forget, we should all lead with love and take care of each other. Peace out, Hooligan Nation.